My name is Richie Korn with the Cincinnati Fire Department. Today we're going over the Rosenbauer trucks that the fire department currently owns. So guys, today what we're going over is very basic on a lot of these things. So if I'm way below your level, just humor me. If I'm way above your level, smile and nod, and if you have any questions, let me know, okay? So today the trucks we're going over are all the Rosenbauer trucks the city of Cincinnati owns. That is the 2009 Rosenbauer tandem axle. That's truck 17, truck 31, and as of yesterday, truck 35. The 2015 Rosenbauer single axle, that's truck 3. And then the 2016s, which are truck 20 and truck 2. And then we have one more, truck 2017 coming in. I have no idea where that's going yet. The biggest thing with these trucks is they're big and they're heavy. This truck is truck 17, the tandem axle is 11'9". This one's 11'6". In comparison, the E1s were 11'1". So there's places you can't go with these. As far as driving around the city, you should be okay. Everything's fixed. Collins was actually just dug out recently so that everything fits. Where you are gonna run into trouble is move-ups. And I guarantee you what's gonna happen. You're gonna get a traveling driver and a traveling lieutenant in the front seat. You go from truck 20 to truck 24. I don't care how hard you try, that is not going in. So be cognizant of that. If you're not sure, park on the street. If you want to try it out, have somebody in all spots to back you in. It's going to be tight in certain places. In certain places, it just won't go. Truck 17, the tandem axle, there's only a few houses we can back into. That's why it's going to stay at truck 17. The other thing is the hangover. The departure angle on these trucks, because of the length of this truck, from the rear axle to the back, it bottoms out quite a bit. If you guys know the spot by the 17's house, this part on Guest Street going up, I cannot go up that section of Guest Street. If we make a run there, I have to go up and over and back down and around because these Outriggers will bottom out. The other thing is apartment complexes, things like that. Think of all the places in your running area where you go up a steep hill to get into a parking lot. If you're not sure, especially on an EMS run, park out of the way. If it's a fire run, do what you need to do, but know that if it's too steep, it's going to bottom out, it's going to damage the truck. The other thing with these is how far it swings when you turn. If you're pulling out of quarters, you need to go out completely out of quarters before you make that turn. If you come out part way and make the turn, you're going to clip the side, you're going to hit the back end of this truck. We've ripped these handles off the back 4 times on truck 17 so far. Same with if you're parked at Kroger next to a pole, you turn sharp, you're going to hit that pole. You're in busy traffic. If your next car's real tight and you park and you turn real sharp, you're going to hit. So it's nothing you can change. You just have to be cognizant of it and kind of adapt your drive and do some gradual turns. The tilt safety. These trucks do not like to take sharp turns. What will happen? If you take a turn too sharp and it feels like it's tilting, the first thing it's going to do is release your throttle. So even if you've got it plastered to the ground, it's going to come off the throttle. The first time it does it, it's going to slam you into the windshield. It's going to catch you off guard. If you still are going too fast into that turn, it's going to start applying your brakes. It feels really weird. Just know that once you get out of that turn and straighten up, it all goes away. Everything's better. But the first time you do it, it's definitely going to catch you off guard. The braking systems. So all of these trucks have 2 types of braking systems. You have the Telma driveline retarder, and you have the engine brake. We always used to call it the Jake brake. Let's start with the tandem axle, the 2009. The tandem axle has 2 separate switches, one for the Telma, one for the engine brake. I can use them both together at the same time. I often do. If I turn them both off, go up into Price Hill, come back down, my brakes are on fire. They're hot. It's almost a 70,000 pound truck. So it takes a lot of braking power. So I need to use those retarders as much as I can. Somewhere between 2009 and 2015, the laws changed. So on the new trucks, the 15s and the 16s, they're now one switch. You have to choose between the 2. So you can flip it up for the Telma, down for the engine brake. The truck 3 also has a center section for off. You pick which one you want. The differences between the 2, I've always heard from the old drivers, seasoned drivers, that if it's raining, turn that Jake brake down, okay? The same holds true. From Rosenbauer, it's up to the driver to decide how much of that Jake to put on in odd weather, rainy weather, snowy weather. For the Telma, it's a little smarter. It actually works with the anti-lock brakes and everything. Per their website, it can be used in any weather conditions. Rain, snow, anything. So, the recommendations I'm giving today, if it's nice sunny weather, use the one you like. If there's one you like over the other, and I don't know if you guys have played with them much, they do act different. The Jake As soon as you let off the throttle, grrr, it slows it down. The Telma, you have to apply the brake. The more you apply the brake, the more it applies. Whichever one you like on a sunny day, do that. On rainy days, snowy days, I personally would use the Telma because that's the only one on their website it says can be used in any conditions. So that way you are not, if something happens, it's not your fault as far as the braking system goes. The website says it's okay. That makes sense? All right. The switches on these trucks are just like all the other trucks we're buying. They're one giant computer. So we've all seen it. You hit the ignition, it goes through its cycle, tries to reset, then it's ready to go. At all costs, try to let it go through that cycle. Personally, what I try to do as I go up, when we get a run, hit the ignition switch on, then get my boots on and everything, get my gear, give it time. If you don't, I understand there's times you can't let it go through the cycle. I get that. If that happens, know that you're going to get some signals. I've made runs before with my gauges going crazy, the lights flashing. Get to the scene, shut it all down, fire it back up, everything is well. Okay? But the more you can let that thing go through its cycle, the happier you can make the computer, the better it's going to run. The where are we at? The DEF. I don't know if you guys have messed with this much at all. The diesel exhaust fluid. All the new trucks have them. Basically, it helps the truck go through the regen and helps everything come out cleaner, helps it regen quicker. So what you need to know about that, other than how it works, I'm not going to get into the science behind it because I'm not going to pretend I know the science behind it. But what I do know is putting in the DEF in these trucks is as important as putting in diesel. You'll look on the dash, there's a gauge up top. When the first time I jumped in, I assumed it was a fuel gauge. It's engine full, or empty full, 4 lights. Right below that is the fuel gauge. That's the DEF gauge. There are no SOPs out as of yet, but my thought process would be when it gets down to half a tank of DEF, fill it. Because when it gets down to half a tank, one of those 2.5 gallon boxes of DEF will fill it up. So at least you know that's where you're at. So do not run it out, or basically the engine will run poorly quickly if it runs out of DEF. When you're running this through its regen, it's pretty simple. The lights will come on and tell you to regen. On the other side, this truck it's kind of hidden behind a panel. Mine's right out front. It's a momentary switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let it go. It'll idle up to a high idle. You'll hear it. That'll take between a half hour to an hour to go through. If you get a run, tap the brake, it'll kick out. You'll probably have to regen again sooner, but you're not out of service. You can kick it out of there right away. When you're regenning, you got to remember that exhaust pipe has extremely high temperatures coming out. So do not get anything near it. If you get cars, bushes, don't put a cone in front of it to block it off, or it'll just be an orange pile of goo by the time you're done. Keep everything away from that, otherwise you will burn it up. Dear God, don't hook it up to the Plime event. On the tandem axle truck, so just the 09 trucks, there's a couple switches that are strictly on that truck. One is called the mud traction snow. What that is for is getting you out of a stuck situation. So you're stuck somewhere, and because of the automatic traction control, it won't let your tires spin. Hit that button, it will override the automatic traction control and let you spin to get out of that situation. You get out, turn it off, you're fine. The inner axle switch. On my tandem axle, the front axle does all the work, the back one's just along for the ride. When I hit that inner axle switch, the way I like to explain it is picture your 78 Jeep. Get out, lock those front hubs. Now everything is locked together. If you've ever driven a Jeep like that, it chirp, 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 chirps like crazy going around corners. This is going to do the same thing. It's going to tear up the tires, but use it if you need to get out of a bad situation. The big thing with that, and I think of this the same way I think of my Jeep, I have to stop. So stop, flip that switch, get out of the spot you need to get out of. Once you're free and clear, turn it off and you're good to go. Does that make sense? All right. Generators. All of the Rosenbauer trucks have diesel generators. So the nice thing is it comes off the diesel tank, no need to fill it. On the tandem axle trucks, it's very similar to our E1 trucks. You open the cabinet doors, open it up, pull it out, turn the key. Instead of a pull start, it's a key start. That'll fire up the 2 cords, 110, 220. So very similar to the E1s. These single axle trucks are a little different. That diamond plate ventilated box up top there is the generator mounted up underneath, and we can see that once we tilt get the aerial out of the bed. To turn that on, it's an APU switch, auxiliary power unit on the dash. That kicks it on, fires up the cord reels. The cord reels are over here. Big difference between These cord reels and the ones on the E1s and on the tandem axle. These are two 220 cord reels. They're no longer as a 110 cord reel. The big difference is this cool Ghostbuster box. So when you're putting this in service, plug this into the end of the reel. You got two types of 220 and you've got your 110. So the biggest thing you're going to do different on this as far as putting it in service is most times at a fire you're going to use the fan first. Obviously grab the one closest to the fire, pull it out, hook up your fan. If you're done with the fan by the time you need the lights, unplug it, take this big box inside, plug in your lights. If you need to use them both at the same time, you have two choices. You can pull the cord off the other side with the box from the other side and plug in the lights, or you can grab a bucket of cords and go right off of this thing. So you have the cord going all the way to the house, plugged into the fan. Off of that, you can go into the lights. All right, around to the front. So all of the all of the Rosenbauer trucks are pre-piped waterways. So if you see up top, if you guys come around to this side of the truck, there's a lever right here that says rescue and water tower. That lever can only be moved if the aerial is fully retracted. All right, if you're extended at all, you can't screw it up. It will not let you move the lever. So with that fully retracted, if it's in rescue mode, the way they carry it right now, that tip will stay with the second fly. So it'll keep it out of your way if you're trying to go to a building. You flip it up to water tower, now it'll stay with the tip to give you more reach if you're using water tower. Once again, that has to be done with the fully retracted. It does not matter where it's set. So let's say you're going defensive at a fire, you start putting it up and you realize it's back at the rescue mode, you can use it. You're just gonna lose 15, 20 feet of reach, but it's still totally usable in that spot. It doesn't have to be in a particular spot to use it. These came with these adjustable nozzles. So at the tip and on the turntable, we have 3 switches. Left, right, up, down, fog, and straight. That controls everything. If you get nothing else out of this little segment of this, know where that thing is pointing before you fire up the water. And I kid you not, if that's pointing at somebody or something, it's gonna hurt them. So at the turntable, you can't see where the thing is pointing. So have somebody down here on the ground so that you know where it's pointing before you fire it up. When we got these, they all had these adjustable tips on them, the fog pattern tips. In the last month, we've gotten smooth bores. So all we did was unplug the cord, put the smooth bore on. Now all the controls still work except for the fog and the straight. Left, right, up, down still work. We also got an adapter to go on the front of this to use a high-rise pack. So let's say you got the aerial and you've got a building, or let's say a parking garage, 6 floors. You can put this thing up 6 floors, hook a hose line up to the top of it and use it as that. Make sense? All right, to the back. All right, supplying water to this thing. Ignore this thing at my feet right now. When we first got these trucks in, this is all we had right here. So the only ability we had to adjust the water was on or off, okay? Water came in here. Whatever the engine gave you, maximum 200 pounds, came in here, came out the tip. The only way we could shut it down, in normal operating procedure, what we would do is, if we're done with it, engine 17 shut down the ladder pipe, and they shut it down for us. If an emergency situation, you have to shut it down, you can flip this switch. It'll shut it down. It shuts it down hard. I've always heard the term water hammer. This is the definition. It is a giant clunk. It sounds angry, but it shuts it off. I said all the trucks came with this. Truck 3 is only a year old. They've already had issues with their switch. The last issue they had, they tried to go defensive. The switch was closed and broken in the closed position, so they couldn't put any water out. The fix was that switch is gone. It's a metal plate, and these appeared. This is a butterfly valve that can go on the end of this. The nice thing about this is I can now control how much pressure. So if the engine's giving me too much pressure, I can dial it back. Truck 20 has played with this on a solid hydrant, and they said there's no problem, even with heavy pressure on it, open and close it real easily. The other nice thing about this is, for all you engine guys, this is here on the truck. So I don't know what scenarios you might use it, maybe a portable deck gun or something like that. You could put this in line with 5-inch and use it for that. So just know it's on these trucks. This, as of right now, is on all of the new Rosenbauers. It is not on the 09 tandem axles yet. I don't know if they're coming in yet or when they're coming in. Setting this thing up at a fire. Other than the height, the other big thing about this truck is the jack spread. The jack spread on this truck from end to end is 15 foot 6 inches. The E1s, I believe is about 12.5 feet. So it's a lot wider spread. You need to think about trying to get as much of this outrigger out on the fire side as possible. This is a smart aerial, meaning two things. One, this truck will not let you hit the truck with the truck. What I mean by that is, if you take this thing, try to take this thing straight out of the bed, if anybody's jumped on the E1, taking it to the left, it will rip everything out of its way to get out of that bed. This will not. This knows where everything is mounted on the truck. It will not let you go left until it's clear of the truck. It also knows all the step downs on the truck. So anywhere around this truck, you can go in any position. It will stop you before it hits the truck. The caveat I'm gonna give to that is, if that generator door is open, it doesn't see that. And if they ever put any accessories on this, let's say truck 20 decides they want a Stokes basket box up there. Unless they reprogram this computer, it's not gonna be there. So if you see anything out of the ordinary, just be cognizant of it. It also knows how much the outriggers are out. So if I get them out all the way, I've got 100 foot of aerial. If you shorten that by just about a foot, foot and a half, that 100 foot becomes 50 foot. So you see real quick, if you short jack this thing, you lose a lot of aerial. So the way I like to explain it is, the first 10 years I drove E1s, when I pulled up to a fire, I just worried about parking the truck and where my turntable was. I didn't worry about left and right. On this truck, you have to seriously consider your lefts and your rights towards the fire building to make sure you can get those outriggers out. If you're nosing into a fire, now your most important ones are your front two, so that you know you can get those out all the way. The last thing we'll say before we fire this thing up, this has an auto bed feature. So if you can get within 20 degrees, left, right, up, down, and extended, there's a button up there, you just hold it down and it will put the truck away for you. You just sit there and hold the button. No more looking over your shoulder for that red line to be lined up. All right, let's say I have somebody, anybody, jump in the front seat, fire this thing up and hit the PTO. All right, guys, come over here to this computer screen. If you need to short jack this truck, this is what's going to tell you all your information you need to know. On this screen, you have a lot of different buttons. This is the air horn button. These lights up here tell you what you cannot do right now. I told you it was smart. You can't go left, you can't go right, you can't go down. That green light right there tells you the rungs are aligned. Just like the old E1s, it's optional. You do not have to align them to climb it, but obviously the steeper it is, the more important it is. I don't know if any of you guys have ever missed a rung coming down a ladder. It's no fun for anybody. This top light is the blue side light, the nice disco lights on the side. The tip light is the second button. When you hit these buttons to change screens, there's definitely a delay. And 1 and 2. This tells you the angles you're sitting at right now. So we're at 0 degrees, we're at 0.8 grade, -2 slope. This is a screen that's gonna help you out when you're short jacking. So when we start putting these outriggers out, you'll see how much you can use that ladder, how much you can't. On these trucks, I always like comparing to the E1. Everybody knows on the E1, there's a power switch, you turn it on, then you have an outrigger switch. When you get all 4 of your lights on, you can go up to use the aerial. This one has one switch. It's outrigger on, off. When you flip it up, you get the beepy, that way you know the outriggers are engaged. I'm gonna turn it off just because it's loud. Once you're done setting the outriggers up, you flip that down and power will be transferred to the aerial. It will not go up there until it has all 4 outriggers down. The way you'll know is there will be some sort of color in every quadrant of this, and it'll be solid color. All right, so let's do this. We'll turn it on. We'll take our front outrigger out all the way. Huh? That's all right. So if you look at the screen, the green blinking section, if I set this truck up just the way it is right now, 3 outriggers straight down to the ground, that one out 100%. For 30 degrees of center, I can use 100 foot of this aerial. For the next 15 degrees or 20 degrees, I can only use 50 feet of it. So, can you set it up this way? Yeah, but you better be confident that that building is right there. So you'll see what happens as soon as we get a little more out. So let's do the rear outrigger, about 50%. So now it's showing that I can use this outrigger about 45 feet. So I'm that short of full extension and I lost 55 feet of aerial. So you see how important it is to get these things out as far as you can. So we take the back one out all the way. On this side of the truck, I can now use, for 180 degrees, I can use 100 foot of aerial, assuming I put them down. That's why it's still blinking, because there's no pressure on the outriggers. I can use nothing on the other side, all right? I can't get out of the other side at all. The way I like to show people, on my truck, this door is a little bit shorter, so I've been using these bolts. On the opposite side, if I can get that outrigger out just that much, I can rotate to that side of the truck. Let me show you. Now look at our screen. I've still got my 100% on the one side, obviously. The other side, I now have about 45 feet on the whole thing. That's not much. That's basically just putting it over there. But here's where it comes in handy. Let's say we're parked right here. The fire building is right here. I'm a telephone pole, all right? You need to rotate this aerial this way around to get there. If you don't get those outriggers out at least that far, you can't go there at all. It'll stop you. Does that make sense? So in my dream world, worst case scenario for me is this. 100% out on the one side, at least that much. And if you look at that side, that's just a matter of the officer in the roughneck getting out. It's not crazy tight. But some streets, I could picture ones in Clifton right now that are tight enough that you might not be able to get that. So let's set this up all the way to put it in service.
So I got a question.
Go for it.
It doesn't care if the outriggers are down, it just cares that they're out.
So right now, I cannot take this out of the bed.
Okay.
It still needs pressure because these are still blinking. Because these are still blinking, I can't do it.
Okay.
As soon as I put pressure on them,
Okay. It'll change the solid.
it'll change to a solid color. Yes. So let's get this out, and one of you guys mind hitting that pad for me? Yep. Generic, yep. So, per Rosenbauer, take the bulge out of the tires. It's okay to lift the rear one off the ground. Let's get the other side. So if you look at the screen now, I have solid green on that side. It doesn't matter what color it is. It depends on how far it's out. But because it's solid, I know they're set. So I need to get the solid on this side too. Bulge out of the tires. I now have solid green on all of them. That means it's ready to switch over. I switch it down. You heard the clunk. That shifted the power up to the top. Every outrigger has a pin, a safety pin. Pin goes in whatever, the last hole you can put it in. It's just a safety to the safety. When you set these pins, make sure you pull them out before you put this truck away. If you don't, they will bend, and now you got to cut them out. So put one in every single one. Yes, sir. All right, if you guys look at this, here's the biggest change between these trucks and our E1 trucks and our old Rosenbauers. I'll call it the F-16 fighter pilot joystick. Now, the tandem axle Rosenbauer trucks still have the old school 3 levers. These have the single joystick to do all controls. The way this works, there's a dead man switch on the back. It won't do anything unless I'm squeezing that trigger. On truck 3, it's just a little different. It's an actual trigger on the top. So if I do any of this, nothing's gonna happen if I'm not squeezing that dead man switch. Any controls on this, you see the only manual switches on here are for the Waterway. So stream, left, right, raise, lower. This is the kill switch. If you wanna set this thing when you're climbing the aerial, feel free, it'll shut everything down. Pull it to move it again. The only time I could see you use that in a real emergency is if somehow a hydraulic cylinder gets stuck where this thing is constantly moving You slam this thing in, it will shut it down. It'll stop it right now. If you look at the screen, in the upper right or upper left-hand corner, you have a little rabbit there. Push it again, you get a turtle. They tried to dumb it down for the firemen. Turtle is 50% speed. All right, so just like the old E1s, you're getting close to a building, you need to feather it. You need to push that to turtle so you have a little better control. On the other side is the same switches we had, or same buttons we had down there. You got the blue lights on the side, you got the tip lights, you've got the air horn button. You see the fire truck in the bottom corner? If that fire truck is there, that means you're within range to use the auto bed. Use the auto bed, you just hold this thing down. It'll make sure it's all the way bedded down. Hold it down until it's in, and then let it go. If you're out of range, that little fire truck will disappear. So the biggest thing on these trucks that you have to think about that's different than the old trucks is the controls. With that squeezed, take it to the left, take it to the right, up out of the bed, down, lower to bed, this toggle, extend, retract. If you play with this a little bit, you get used to it really quick, all of a sudden you're not looking down. The big thing that's going to get you on these trucks, and basically I'm going to call it ladder drift. Truck 17, the tandem axles have it a little bit. These trucks have it a lot. So what I want you to do, and the gist of it is, if you're going full throttle one way and you just let go of this thing, it does not come to a stop. It slowly comes to a stop. It's a safety feature. Picture somebody at the tip, you let go of it, you don't fling them off the tip. So this is the biggest thing I want you guys to play with. As soon as we get done with this part of the demo, I want everybody to take 4 or 5 minutes to play with the stick to get used to it. But to show what the difference is, can you hop down off there? Doug, let's have you squeeze this and just take it straight out of the bed. If you look at the screen, you'll see the lights that say, I can't go left, I can't go right. You see those on here?
Yep.
Okay, take it up until those lights go away. So this truck will only let you go up out of the bed or extend when it's down within the lights. Good?
It's up in the very top of the right.
Yep, they're gone. Okay, so this is the demonstration I want to give of ladder drift. So Doug, what I want you to do is I want you to take it straight to the right, get it going full speed, and I'd say we can camber up the tip here. When you let go of that, I want you to let go, and I want you to say now, loud, when you let go of it, okay? Take it right and get it going full throttle. Now. So you guys see how far that drifted when he said now. This is fully retracted, so this is like 35 feet. Picture if that thing was fully extended 100 feet. That tip probably would have floated about 25, 30 feet. So you have to be cognizant of that. If you're coming close to a building, close to wires, whatever, if you feather this to a stop, once again, I keep comparing to the old E1s. Picture how you can feather those levers so stop it where you want. If you feather this, you can stop this thing on a dime. But if you get close and just let go, it is floating. So you get this close to that building and just let go, it's slamming into that building. So that's what you guys really got to think about when you're operating this thing. So for this next part, what I want you to do is operate it. We're going to rotate through. Everybody take 3 or 4 minutes at the turntable. What I want you to do is get it going one way or the other. It also does extend and retract. So when you extend, if you just let go, it's going to float another run or two. I want you to do that once, and then play with the aerial a couple times, move it around, and rotate through, and then we'll go on to the next part. Let's take a minute to go over the override system on this thing. So before I show you how it works, let me tell you what it's intended for. Per Rosenbauer, what this switch is intended for is to put the truck away in case you get stuck. So, perfect example. I'm working off this side of the truck. I set this on top of a sewer lid. The sewer lid busts through. I now have no pressure on that outrigger. It is going to stop me. I cannot move that aerial, all right? You can use this override to put the aerial away back in the bed so that you can go to a safer spot. Per Rosenbauer, what this is not for, I short jack this thing, my fire's right here, it stops me at 60 feet. My roof is 75 feet away. It is not for me to decide to go an extra 15 feet to extend this ladder. If I'm taking this out of the bed, let's say to tilt the cab, I can take these outriggers straight down, set the aerial, and take it out of the bed. It will let me do that, and that's the way I would do it. There's no reason to put the outriggers out. You can't go left or right, but you can tilt the cab. if I do that same scenario and I use this override, you just overrode every safety feature of this truck. So what I talked about, the truck not being able to hit the truck, you can now hit the truck. You can also take it out of the bed, circle it over here 100 feet until this truck flips over. So before you use these overrides, you better have it really stuck in your head why you're doing it and have a really valid reason. How you use them. Flip this up. The way I like to describe this is they kind of made this a two idiot system. They have to have two idiots in complete agreement that we're going to override this truck. All right? Idiot one flips this switch. When he does that, on top of the truck are green lights. They're going to flash. That's telling the instant commander there's an idiot at work. All right? Idiot two is on top of the turntable. He can now control this truck and put that aerial wherever he wants. So, in my scenario, where this fell through a hole and you have no pressure, take it back to the opposite side, put the bed away, put it away, move this outrigger, do whatever you do to make it safe, put it back in use. The one time I can see you using this at a fire, let's say you put these outriggers down and you didn't quite put a lot of pressure on them. You didn't take enough bulge out of the tires. The way this system is set up, if I'm working on this side of the truck and these outriggers are good, and one outrigger on the opposite side comes off, still good. It will still let me operate as usual. That second one comes off, it's now shutting me down. So you just tip the truck a little bit, both of those outriggers are out, now you need to put it away. You're stuck there, you cannot move. You probably can retract, and that's all you can do. If that happens, have somebody down here, hold up on this. The man on the inside, make sure you turn it the right way, bring it back towards the truck, put it away, put it down, and then you can readjust the outriggers. That's all I got.